The massive silver gates of the Galactic Military Academy opened slowly. Behind them stood the tallest buildings He-Jin had ever seen. They reached up into the purple sky of planet Nexus, their tops hidden in the clouds. He took a deep breath of the artificial atmosphere, adjusted his heavy backpack, and walked forward with his two fellow humans. "This place is bigger than all of Seoul," whispered Du-young, walking beside him. The muscular young man kept looking up at the buildings, almost tripping over his own feet. Jae-yun walked on He-Jin's other side, her tablet computer already out as she studied the academy map. "The main campus alone is 40 square kilometers," she said, "and we're the first humans to ever step foot in it." They weren't just the first humans in the academy. They were the first humans many of these aliens had ever seen. As they walked down the wide path toward the registration building, students of various species stopped to stare at them. Some had too many eyes, others had no eyes at all. Some floated instead of walking, while others moved on dozens of legs. "They're looking at us like we're zoo animals," Du-young said quietly. He-Jin understood why. Humans came from Earth, classified as a death world by galactic standards. Their planet had higher gravity, more dangerous weather, and more aggressive life forms than most inhabited worlds. This made humans stronger and more durable than many alien species. It also made other species nervous around them. A tall, blue-skinned alien in a silver uniform approached them. According to He-Jin's studies, this was a Thoraxian, one of the oldest spacefaring races. "I am Commander Vix," the alien said in perfect universal standard. "You are the Earth candidates." "Yes, Commander," all three humans said together, standing straight. Commander Vix walked around them slowly, four-fingered hands clasped behind his back. "Interesting. You look so fragile for Deathworlders. Are you sure you can handle the physical demands of this academy?" He-Jin saw Du-young's jaw tighten, but they all stayed quiet. They had been warned about this. As the first humans in the academy, they would face doubt and prejudice. "Follow me," Commander Vix said. "Your first test begins now." Instead of going to registration like the other new cadets, Commander Vix led them to a large dome structure. Inside, the air was thick and hot. The floor was covered in some kind of blue metal. "This is our basic training facility," Commander Vix explained. "Standard gravity here is 3 times that of Nexus." He touched a control panel, and He-Jin felt his body get heavier. "Most new cadets train at normal gravity for the first month. But since you're from a high-gravity world, surely this won't be a problem." He-Jin could tell the commander expected them to fail. Earth's gravity was only 1.5 times that of Nexus. This was twice what they were used to. But they had trained for this. "Permission to begin, Commander," Jae-yun asked calmly. Commander Vix waved a hand. "Show me what Deathworlders can do." The 3 humans spread out on the training floor. He-Jin noticed other cadets and instructors gathering to watch through the dome's clear walls. He pushed the pressure of their stares out of his mind and focused. "Basic exercise routine 1," He-Jin said to his teammates. They nodded and began. What happened next made the watching aliens press against the glass in surprise. Despite the crushing gravity, the humans moved through a series of exercises with smooth efficiency. They did push-ups, squats, and running in place. Their movements were slower than on Earth, but they didn't stop. "Impossible," Commander Vix muttered, checking his control panel. "You should barely be able to stand." On Earth, Jae-yun said between controlled breaths, "We have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Routine 2, He-Jin called out. They moved into more complex exercises, jumps, rolls, and combat forms. Sweat soaked their uniforms, but they kept going. Du-young even managed to smile. "This is just like training in the mountains back home," he said. "Except the air tastes better." Commander Vix's blue skin had turned slightly pale. He wasn't the only one surprised. The watching aliens were talking rapidly among themselves in various languages. The translator implants in He-Jin's ears caught fragments, Amazing. How are they doing this? They're not even using support suits. After 15 minutes, He-Jin called a halt. The three humans stood at attention, breathing hard but steady. Their legs shook slightly, but they didn't fall. Sufficient demonstration, Commander? He-Jin asked. Commander Vic stared at them for a long moment. You've made your point about physical capability, he said finally. But the Academy is not just about strength. We'll see how you handle the mental challenges. He led them to a large classroom. The seats were designed for various alien body types, but the humans found ones that worked for them. The room filled with other new cadets, floating gas beings, crystalline life forms, and species He-Jin had never seen before. A hologram appeared at the front of the room. A complex tactical scenario showing fleet movements and battle positions. Pop quiz. Commander Vix announced. You have 3 minutes to identify the optimal attack pattern. He-Jin studied the scenario. The ships were arranged in traditional galactic fleet formation, a pattern that hadn't changed in 300 years. But he saw something the aliens might miss. When time was up, Commander Vix called on various cadets. They all gave similar answers, quoting standard tactical doctrine. Then he pointed to Jai-Yun. She stood. The standard approach would fail, she said clearly. The enemy's formation has a hidden advantage in the gravitational effects from the nearby pulsar. But if we adapt the tactics Earth navies used in the Age of Sail, specifically the crossing the T maneuver, we could use those same gravitational effects against them. The room went silent. Commander Vix's expression was unreadable. Interesting, he said finally. And how did you reach this conclusion? Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. Jai-Yun explained. We learned that sometimes old solutions work best for new problems. That's not in any tactical manual. A crystalline cadet objected. No, He-Jin spoke up. But it's in human history books. The great Admiral Yi Sun-Sin used similar tactics to defeat larger fleets centuries ago. Commander Vix raised his hand for silence. You three are not what I expected, he said slowly. Perhaps that's not a bad thing. Report to registration for your room assignments. Classes begin tomorrow. He turned to leave, then stopped. And cadets, welcome to the Academy. As they walked to registration, Du-Young grinned. Did you see their faces during the gravity test? Don't get too excited, Jai-Yun warned. That was just day one. They'll be watching us even closer now. He-Jin nodded. Then we'll show them something worth watching. He looked up at the towering buildings of the Academy, now lit by the setting sun. We're not just here to learn their ways of war. We're here to teach them ours. Behind them, the light of 2 suns painted the alien sky in shades of purple and gold. The first day was ending, but their real challenge was just beginning. The 3 humans walked on, ready to prove that being from a death world wasn't a disadvantage. It was their greatest strength. 2 months into their training at the Galactic Military Academy, the annual war games were announced. The massive screens in the main hall displayed the team assignments. He-Jin read the listings with growing interest. He would lead the defensive team in Sector 4, while Du-Young and Jai-Yun were assigned to different offensive squadrons. Interesting choices, Commander Vix said, appearing beside them. The Academy's administration wants to see how humans perform in different roles. Try not to disappoint us. He-Jin studied his team roster. He had 15 cadets under his command, a mix of species he had trained with over the past months. Some floated, some crawled, and some walked on legs. Each had different strengths and weaknesses. The traditional approach would be to assign them standard defensive positions based on their species' typical roles. But He-Jin had other ideas. In the preparation room, he gathered his team. I know what you're expecting, he said. Standard formation, energy shields up, long-range weapons ready. But we're going to try something different. A gas-form cadet named Mist-7 rippled in confusion. But the standard formations have been proven effective for centuries. They're effective because they're predictable, He-Jin explained. And that makes them vulnerable. On Earth, we learn different ways to defend, ways that use the enemy's expectations against them. He brought up a hologram of their defensive sector, a rocky valley with artificial ruins scattered throughout. We won't just sit and wait for the attack. We'll make this entire valley into our weapon. Over the next hour, He-Jin explained his plan. Some cadets looked skeptical, others excited, but they all listened. In another part of the academy, Du-Young faced his own challenges. His offensive team commander, a crystalline being named Prism, had assigned him to the rear guard. "Your physical capabilities are impressive," Prism said, "but close combat is obsolete in modern warfare." Do-Young disagreed, but kept his thoughts to himself. He had learned when to stay quiet and when to act. His chance would come. Jae-Yun, meanwhile, was deep in discussion with her squadron's tactical officers. She had spotted weaknesses in their attack plan, but was carefully choosing how to present her ideas. "The standard approach relies heavily on our technological advantages," she said. "But what if we combine them with more flexible tactics?" The tactical officers, a pair of floating brain-like creatures, pulsed with interest. "Explain," they said in unison. The war games began at dawn the next day. The purple sky of Nexus was clear, and all three suns were visible. Observation drones hovered above the battlefield, broadcasting the event to the entire academy. He-Jin's defensive team was ready. They had worked through the night, preparing surprises throughout their sector. Now they waited, but not in the expected positions. The first attack came from Prism's team, a textbook offensive formation moving down the valley. Energy shields hummed, and long-range weapons were charged. They moved with perfect coordination, just as centuries of galactic military doctrine dictated. They weren't ready for what happened next. Instead of meeting energy weapons with energy weapons, He-Jin's team struck from hidden positions. They used the ruins not just as cover, but as weapons themselves. Gravity manipulators turned falling debris into projectiles. Smoke generators created confusion. Small drones, reprogrammed by He-Jin's team, darted through the attackers' formation, disrupting their perfect spacing. In the command center, Commander Vix watched with growing amazement. "What kind of defense is this?" "Guerrilla warfare," explained one of the human cultural experts. "And Earth tactic. They're using the environment and mobility instead of pure firepower." Prism's perfect formation began to break apart. They had trained to fight an enemy that would stand and fight. Instead, He-Jin's team struck, vanished, and struck again from new positions. That's when Du-Young made his move. While the main force was distracted by He-Jin's tactics, Du-Young led a small group through the chaos. They moved fast, staying low, using the confusion as cover. When they reached the enemy's rear position, Du-Young did something that shocked everyone watching. He engaged in hand-to-hand combat. "What is he doing?" Prism demanded. "Personal combat is primitive." But primitive worked. Du-Young's strength and speed, honed by Earth's gravity and refined by academy training, proved devastating at close range. His team followed his lead, and soon Prism's rear guard was in chaos. "Impossible," Commander Vix muttered. "They're winning with obsolete tactics." But the biggest surprise came from Jae-Yun's sector. Her squadron had modified their attack plan based on her suggestions. Instead of relying purely on advanced technology, they combined it with Earth Special Forces techniques. Small teams moved independently but coordinated, using their technological advantages in unpredictable ways. When they encountered He-Jin's defensive positions, both sides had to adapt quickly. The battle became a complex dance of action and reaction, with neither side following the standard rules of engagement. In the command center, tactical experts were frantically taking notes. The observation drones captured everything, recording battle tactics that had never been seen before in the Academy's history. "Look at how they're moving," one expert said. "The humans aren't just fighting differently. They're making their alien teammates fight differently too. They're combining their primitive survival instincts with our advanced technology." Commander Vix watched it all with growing understanding. These humans weren't just participating in the war games, they were revolutionizing them. The battle raged for hours. He-Jin's defensive strategy forced the attackers to waste energy and resources. Du Young's close combat team disrupted careful plans and created chaos in ordered formations. Jia Yun's hybrid tactics kept everyone guessing. When the final signal sounded, ending the exercise, no clear winner had emerged. But that wasn't the point. The real victory was in what had been learned. In the debriefing room, Commander Vix addressed all the participants. "Today, we witnessed something unprecedented," he said. "Our human cadets have demonstrated that there is more to warfare than following established doctrine. Their primitive backgrounds have shown us new possibilities." He-Jin, Du Young, and Jia Yun stood together, tired but proud. They had done more than win or lose a training exercise. They had shown the galaxy that humans had something valuable to contribute. "Your performance today will be studied carefully," Commander Vix continued. "It seems we have much to learn from Earth's military history." He paused, his blue skin shifting slightly, and what the humans had learned was amusement. "Though perhaps we should stop calling you primitive." After the debriefing, other cadets crowded around the humans, asking questions about Earth warfare and tactics. Even Prism approached Du Young. "I was wrong about close combat," the crystalline being admitted. "In the right situations, it can be devastatingly effective." Du Young smiled. "On Earth, we learn to use every advantage we have. Sometimes the oldest techniques work best." Later, in their quarters, the three humans discussed the day's events. "Did you see their faces when you started the guerrilla tactics?" Jia Yun asked He-Jin. He nodded. "They didn't expect us to be so mobile. They thought we'd just stand and fight." "Tomorrow's classes will be interesting," Du Young said. "I heard they're already adding Earth military history to the tactical training curriculum." "This is just the beginning," He-Jin said, looking out at the purple sky of their new home. "We're not just learning to fight their way. We're teaching them to think differently about warfare itself." Jia Yun picked up her tablet, already making notes. The galaxy thought humans were too primitive for modern warfare. But maybe that's exactly why we're needed here. Outside their window, the three suns of Nexus were setting, painting the sky in brilliant colors. The Galactic Military Academy's perfect order had been disrupted today, but it had emerged stronger. The age of purely technological warfare was ending. A new era of combined tactics, one that respected both the old and the new, was beginning. And it had started with three humans who dared to break the rules. #Deathworlder Cadets, rewrite the rules of war, shocking alien commanders. 3 days after the war games, alarms blared throughout the Galactic Military Academy. The sound pulled He-Jin from his advanced tactics studies. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Cadets of all species rushed to assembly points, some floating, others running on various numbers of legs. "Emergency gathering in the main hall," the announcement system declared in universal standard. "This is not a drill. All cadets report immediately." He-Jin met Du Young and Jia Yun in the corridor. They ran together toward the main hall, their bodies easily keeping pace in Nexus's lighter gravity. "Real emergency or another test?" Du Young asked as they ran. "Look at the instructors' faces," Jia Yun said, pointing ahead. The usually calm alien teachers looked worried, their various biological features showing signs of stress. In the main hall, Commander Vix stood on the raised platform. His blue skin had turned a pale shade that He-Jin had never seen before. The massive screens behind him showed a space station, Waypoint 7, the largest civilian station in this sector of space. 30 minutes ago, Commander Vix announced, Waypoint 7 was attacked by the Blood Sun's mercenary fleet. They have taken control of the station. There are 10,000 civilian lives at risk. The hall erupted in worried sounds, clicks, whistles, and electronic pulses from various species. Commander Vix raised all 4 of his hands for silence. "Most of our senior officers are away at the Galactic Defense Conference," He continued, "The nearest military fleet is 3 days away at maximum speed. We are the only force close enough to respond." He-Jin felt his heart beat faster. The Academy had a small defense fleet, mostly training vessels, but they were only cadets, not fully trained officers. "The mercenaries are demanding a ransom of 50 billion credits," Commander Vic said. "They have given us 6 hours to deliver it. After that, they will start ejecting civilians into space." The hall went silent. Even the floating gas-form cadets stopped their usual gentle movement. "According to standard protocols," Commander Vix continued, "we should wait for the proper authorities. Our training vessels are not meant for real combat. Our cadets are not yet fully qualified." He paused. "But 10,000 lives cannot wait 3 days." He-Jin looked at his fellow humans. They had all studied Earth's history of hostage situations. Sometimes waiting for the proper authorities meant waiting too long. Jia-Yun raised her hand. Commander Vix nodded at her. "Sir," she said, standing up, "standard protocols assume standard tactics. But the Blood Suns will expect that. They'll be ready for a traditional military response. What they won't expect is something that's never been done before." Commander Vix's expression changed slightly. "You have a suggestion, Cadet?" "We do, sir," He-Jin said, also standing. "But you won't find it in any tactical manual." The commander gestured for them to approach the platform. The 3 humans walked forward, aware of hundreds of alien eyes watching them. "Explain," Commander Vix ordered. For the next 10 minutes, the humans outlined their plan. They used the main hall's holographic systems to show their ideas. As they spoke, the alien cadets' expressions changed from doubt to interest to cautious hope. "This is madness," one of the tactical instructors said. "Using maintenance systems as assault routes, close-quarter combat in zero gravity, and that final part." The instructor's crystalline form flickered with agitation. "The final part is the key," Jia-Yun said firmly. "The Blood Suns rely on advanced technology. Their ships, their weapons, their control systems, all standard galactic tech. But they won't be ready for Earth tactics combined with that same technology." Commander Vix studied the plan. "This goes against every protocol in the Academy's history." "Yes, sir," He-Jin agreed. "That's why it might work." The commander was quiet for a long moment. The massive screens behind him showed the space station, still held by the mercenaries. 10,000 lives hanging in the balance. "If we fail," Commander Vix said slowly, "we risk not just the mission but the lives of our cadets, the Academy's reputation, the trust placed in us by the Galactic Council. If we do nothing," Du Young responded, "we risk something greater. Our humanity." Commander Vix's eyes widened slightly at the word. He had been studying Earth culture since the humans arrived. He knew what they meant. "Very well," he said finally. "Cadet He-Jin, you will coordinate the overall assault. Cadet Du Young, prepare your boarding teams. Cadet Jia-Yun, begin your electronic warfare preparations." He turned to address the whole hall. "This mission is voluntary. The risk is extreme. Any cadet who wishes to remain behind will not be judged." Not a single cadet moved to leave. The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. He-Jin worked with the Academy's small fleet, teaching them how to use maintenance pods as cover, a trick learned from Earth's naval battles. Du Young trained his mixed-species boarding teams in zero-gravity combat, showing them how to use their various biological advantages in close quarters. Jia-Yun and her technical team reprogrammed commercial data protocols into weapons the Blood Suns would never expect. In the launch bay, Commander Vix addressed the assembled forces one last time. "What we attempt today has never been done," he said. "We are about to use untested tactics, led by cadets from a world many called primitive." He looked at the gathered crews, humans working alongside aliens of all forms. "But perhaps that is exactly what we need. The Blood Suns expect us to follow the rules. Today, we will show them that rules can change." The fleet launched under cover of Nexus's magnetic storms. 5 training vessels, their crews a mix of cadets and the few instructors who remained at the academy. In the lead ship's tactical center, He-Jin watched the displays as they approached Waypoint 7. "The mercenaries are hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Good," He-Jin said. "Begin Phase 1. Jai-Yun's electronic warfare team struck first. Instead of trying to break through the mercenaries' military-grade security, they used civilian commercial protocols, the kind used by maintenance crews and delivery services. Simple, overlooked, but connected to every system on the station. The Blood Sun's first warning was when their artificial gravity began to fail in random sections. Then life support started reporting false emergencies, sending their crews running to fix problems that didn't exist. Phase 2, He-Jin ordered. The Academy's small fleet split into 3 groups, approaching the station from different angles. But the real approach was happening out of sight. Maintenance pods, their signals masked as routine traffic, carried Du Young's boarding teams to the station's outer hull. In the command ship, Commander Vix watched the humans' plan unfold. "Remarkable," he muttered. "They're using the station's own systems as weapons." The Blood Suns responded with traditional tactics: energy weapons, shield formations, organized defense patterns, just as the humans had predicted. "They're deploying their fighters in standard intercept formation," the tactical officer reported. He-Jin allowed himself a small smile. "Begin Phase 3. The next few minutes showed why humans had survived and thrived on their death world. The Academy fleet moved in patterns the mercenaries had never seen, using debris and maintenance structures as cover. Du Young's boarding teams cut through the hull at unexpected points, emerging inside the station where no enemy would think to look. And through it all, Jai-Yun's electronic warfare turned the station's own systems against the Blood Suns. Doors opened and closed randomly. Communication systems played Earth music at full volume, breaking their coordination. Security cameras showed false images. "This is impossible," one of the mercenary commanders transmitted. "They're just cadets." "Correction," Commander Vix responded, his voice calm. "They are Academy cadets, and they are rewriting the rules of engagement." The battle raged for another hour. The Blood Suns found their expensive weapons and shields meant little against enemies who would fight hand-to-hand in zero gravity. Their careful formations broke against tactics they had never trained to resist. Their advanced systems fell to attacks coming through civilian maintenance protocols. When the station's main control room was finally breached, the mercenary leader found himself facing Du Young in person. "Surrender," Du Young said simply, "or we can do this the hard way." The mercenary looked at the human in shock. "This isn't how warfare works," he protested. "It does now," Du Young replied. In the end, the Blood Suns surrendered. Not a single civilian life was lost. The Academy cadets had done what a full military fleet would have found difficult, if not impossible. As cleanup crews secured the station, Commander Vix found the 3 humans in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "The Galactic Council will have much to say about this," he said. "You broke every rule of engagement in the manual." "Yes, sir," He-Jin agreed, "but we proved those rules need to change." Indeed, the commander's blue skin had returned to its normal shade. "Perhaps it's time for the galaxy to learn that being primitive, as you put it, isn't always a disadvantage." Jai-Yun looked up from her tablet, where she was already documenting the battle's lessons. "Humans survived on Earth because we learned to adapt, to use whatever worked, no matter how simple or complex. And now," Commander Vix said, "you have taught that lesson to the stars themselves." News of the Waypoint 7 rescue spread across the galaxy faster than light speed. The Galactic Military Academy found itself at the center of unprecedented attention. 1 week after the incident, the Academy's main hall was filled with high-ranking officials from various species and worlds. He-Jin stood at attention beside Du Young and Jai-Yun. Their cadet uniforms had been cleaned and pressed for this formal hearing. Commander Vix stood with them, his blue skin gleaming under the bright lights. The head of the Galactic Council, a tall being made of shifting golden energy, spoke first. We have reviewed the events at Waypoint 7 extensively. Never in our history has a training academy undertaken such a mission. Never have cadets been allowed to plan and execute a real combat operation. He-Jin kept his face neutral, but he felt worry in his stomach. They had broken many rules to save those civilians. Now they would face the consequences. Furthermore, the council had continued. The tactics used in this operation go against centuries of established military doctrine. Using civilian maintenance systems as weapons, engaging in physical combat in space, turning commercial protocols into tools of warfare. The golden being paused. By all traditional standards, these actions should be condemned. The hall was silent. Even the floating gas-form beings were completely still. However, the council head's voice softened. 10,000 civilians are alive because of these actions. The Blood Suns, a mercenary group that has troubled our space for decades, was defeated by cadets using methods no one expected. The being turned to face the three humans directly. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our traditional standards. Commander Vix stepped forward. Honored Council, when these human cadets first arrived, I thought their Deathworld background made them too primitive for our advanced warfare. I was wrong. What we saw as primitive was simply different. And different, it seems, is exactly what we needed. The council head nodded. Explain. For centuries, Commander Vix continued, we have relied on technology and rigid doctrine. We believed warfare had evolved beyond physical combat and simple solutions, but the humans showed us that sometimes the old ways, combined with new technology, can be more effective than pure advancement. Jai Yun raised her hand politely. The council head gave permission to speak. On Earth, she said, her voice clear and strong, we have a saying. The more complex the system, the more simple ways there are to break it. We survived on our death world because we learned to use everything available to us, from the simplest stick to the most advanced computer. And this philosophy led to your success at Waypoint 7, the council head asked. Yes, He-Jin answered. The Blood Suns expected a traditional response. They were ready for energy weapons, shield formations, and cyber warfare. They weren't ready for maintenance pods used as cover, hand-to-hand combat in zero gravity, or commercial protocols turned into weapons. Do Young stepped forward. In Earth's history, many battles were won not by the side with better technology, but by the side that used their resources in unexpected ways. The council head was quiet for a moment, its golden energy swirling in thought. Commander Vix, what changes would you recommend based on these events? Commander Vix straightened. First, I recommend that Earth military history and tactics be added to all Academy training programs. Second, that we revise our combat doctrine to include what we now call hybrid warfare, the combination of advanced technology with basic tactical principles. And third, he continued, looking at the three humans, that these cadets be promoted to full instructor status. They have more to teach us than we initially realized. Murmurs filled the hall. Promoting cadets to instructors was unprecedented. But then, everything about these humans had been unprecedented. The council head raised its arms for silence. These recommendations are unusual. But recent events have shown us that unusual may be exactly what the galaxy needs. The being turned to address the whole hall. For too long, we have viewed species from death worlds as primitive. We saw their physical strength and survival instincts as marks of an uncivilized past. Today, we recognize this view as short-sighted. The golden being floated down to stand directly before the three humans. Your actions at Waypoint 7 did more than save lives. They showed us that true advancement comes not from abandoning the past, but from combining the old with the new, the simple with the complex, the physical with the technological. Therefore, the council had announced, all of Commander Vix's recommendations are approved. Furthermore, the Galactic Military Academy will become the center for a new type of military training, one that respects and learns from all approaches to warfare, regardless of their origin. The hall erupted in approval. Species of all forms expressed their support in their own ways. Flashing lights, pulsing colors, electronic tones, and traditional applause. Later that evening, Hejin, Du Young, and Jai Yun stood on their favorite observation deck, watching Nexus's 3 suns set. Instructor Hejin, Du Young said, testing the sound of the new title. It still feels strange. Jai Yun was already making notes on her tablet. We have so much to teach them. Earth's military history is full of examples of innovative tactics and unexpected strategies. And we have much to learn from them too, Hejin added, watching ships move through the purple sky. The best solutions come from combining different approaches. Commander Vix joined them on the deck. The first new classes begin tomorrow, he said. Are you ready? The 3 humans exchanged looks. They had come to the academy expecting to learn the galaxy's ways of war. Instead, they had taught the galaxy that sometimes the old ways were just as valuable as the new. We're ready, Hejin answered. But let's start with something simple, like how Alexander the Great defeated a larger army with terrain and tactics, or how Admiral Yi Sun Sin turned turtle ships into the terror of the seas, Du Young added. Or how computer viruses were first named after biological ones. Jai Yun finished with a smile. Commander Vix's blue skin shifted in what they now recognized as amusement. From Deathworlder Cadets to Academy instructors in less than a year, you humans never cease to surprise us. That's why we survived Earth, Hejin said, watching the last sunset. And that's why we'll help the galaxy survive whatever comes next. The stars began to appear in Nexus's darkening sky. Somewhere out there, other Deathworld species might be waiting to join the galactic community. When they did, they would find an academy ready to learn from them, not judge them. Ready to combine the old with the new, the simple with the complex. The rules of war had been rewritten, and it all started with 3 humans who dared to think differently.